he loved the comment. I'm like, good, because you don't think I'm serious. But I'm dead serious. Like, it's so good.
Well, anyways, hi everyone. Welcome to the Semi-Bookish podcast. We're starting on that note.
Yes!
So, Tony, because you're already talking about it, let's just start with you. What are you watching, reading, playing, doing? No.
Okay, so I'm continuing. I'm dubbing this the year of the otaku. And the otaku...
Are you going to become an otaku?
Yeah, that's the goal. The otaku is me. So so my main goals are the big three. Which, for those of you
Which
who are...
big three are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because there are, like, multiple big threes.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Okay,
sure.
so I should say the Shonen Jump's definition of the big three, because all
No, once again.
That's fair.
Which big three? Because there are multiple big three.
That's
fair. Have to be specific.
Fair. Because, so...
Which generation of big three are we talking?
That's fair. So the most recent generation, which would include, and I'm sure
What is it, like Jujutsu Kaisen?
No, so just before that one. So I would say, well, not me. The internet and other interested parties, including the Shonen Jump magazine.
The one before that. So
this
Naruto, generation. So it's Naruto, Bleach
and
Full Metal.
One Piece.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? You would think like Full Metal, Dragon Ball, those are all big ones.
No, Dragon Ball's before that.
Of course.
Dragon Ball is the generation before.
It's the generation before. But Dragon Ball is also just like endless. But yeah, so my goal this year, apart from just watching so much anime that I, become literally an anime character, on December 31st.
Yeah, the big three is One Piece, Naruto, Bleach.
Bleach, yeah. So I'm reading all three of those as much as possible. But while I'm doing those as well, I'm also just venturing out and exploring other things. And one of the things I explored came from the creator of a little-known anime also called Inuyasha.
I have so many things I could say about that.
Yeah, not yet. I have to read it first. Okay, anyway,
No, I was going to say, fun fact. I think it's the ending song or the beginning song of Inuyasha, Every Heart or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's done by one girl, and she dubbed it in English, Japanese, and Korean because she was part of a Korean entertainment industry company. Her name's Boa. And at 13, she was sent to Japan to do J-pop work instead of K-pop work because SM Entertainment was about to go bankrupt. And so all of it rested on the shoulders of a 13-year-old girl. She did the Inuyasha theme song and became popular, and boom. Now we have the K-pop industry. Congratulations to you know this.
So to make a very, very long story short, I love that. No, I love it because that dovetails with the thing I'm going to say next. To make a very, very, very long story short, I've been doing, because I'm the person that I am, I've been doing research into different mangaka, which basically is a word for people who create manga. I'm doing all this for the newbies. You guys know these things.
I already know this.
Yeah. For the civilians listening to this.
For the locals.
For the locals,
We call that in K-pop, we call them the locals.
Oh, okay. So the locals, yes. So, yes, mangaka are people who create manga, which then often get turned into anime. So, I've just been doing some, scatological research about these people because I find them so fascinating because they draw and I can't draw. And I found a statistic that's been going around. It was even mentioned on the YouTube I was watching, the video I was watching today. Apparently, according to this new statistic, no one even knows where this statistic came from. 70% of all manga is created by women.
Yep.
Which, by the way, makes sense when you look at the history of who's been creating this stuff, right? But I found that to be a fascinating number, given the fact that most people who are, at the stage where I'm at, starting to do the deep dive kind of stuff, don't really know that because all they know are, the big three or, all the dude stuff, right? When it's, in fact, women have been making hand over fist more because they tend to write more series than the big guys, and they also tend to write whether they read it more, and they also write.
It's the same thing with comic books, regular comic books.
Yeah.
Women are typically the ones who read it more. They're just the more, the silent majority thing. Mm-hmm. Women are the true silent majority when it comes to comic book, manga, video games, things like that. Yeah. A lot more of them play and read it than you think they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just they don't make it their whole entire personality and become creepy about it.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
So leading to that, I read the first 2-in-1 volume of Ranma One Half.
Yeah.
The basic premise of which is there is this 15-year-old boy by the name of Ranma Saltame and his father. His father promised his really, really good friend Tendo long ago that he would marry off his son, if he had a son, to Tendo's daughters, right? That's just an agreement that they had, because of course they did. Well, before they decide to move to where Tendo is living with his 3 daughters, they go on a little trip to China. And in China, there are these... This is a part of the story. This is not necessarily real. But in this version of China, there are these, like, cool, like, pools of water that are all cursed. Mm-hmm. And so the dad falls into the pool of the panda, and so, of course, comes up as a panda. The son falls into the pool of the drowned girl.
So he drowns?
He comes back up, but as a girl. So, whenever either of them is splashed with cold water, they are either panda or girl, respectively. But when they are splashed with hot water, they are returned back to their original bodies.
So it's kind of like how in H2O, when the mermaid girls touch water, they all of a sudden turn into mermaids.
And what's even more fun about it is it's so wonderfully gender fluid, because it has to be. So every single chapter is very think of it as a sitcom, right? Mm-hmm. Or like slice of life for those of us who know the terms. It's very like romantic comedy slice of life about these martial artists just trying to live their life, but it's all, high octane, ridiculous kind of things. But in every single chapter, there's a transformation. So he's never just a boy. He's always, including the one chapter, which is one of my favorites in that book that I just finished reading, where the girls, including the one that he's engaged to by their parents' decision, they're trying to dress the girl body one morning, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you look so cute in that," and Ranma's just like, "Okay, I get it. I have boobs right now, but do I really have to go through this? This is uncomfortable." And they're like, "But you're adorable." And then she looks at herself and she's like, "I do have a good body." And it's just, I love it. It's so great because imagine, this is published in by Viz Media, right?
Yeah.
Aimed at middle school boys and girls.
Yeah.
Imagine middle school boys reading a story in which a character routinely a male character, their age routinely has to be a girl. It's great, and it's so good. It's so good. The gender play is everything, but I'm gender fluid, so of course it is, right? So that's where Tony is in the manga anime universe. Jujutsu Kaisen is also rocking my world because it is literally, one, it's better than Bleach because that's not hard to do, but I know, shade, right? Whatever.
That is so much shade.
Because Bleach is good conceptually, but after season 1, he tripped and fell and busted his head or something, because it's like, sir, we're going off the rails. Why are we going off the rails? This story doesn't make sense anymore. Uryu does this weird 180 where he goes from being actually menacing to being a regular angry high school kid.
Yep.
Why?
That happens a lot. That happens a lot.
Okay, that's fair. All right. Anyway, you're the otaku over here. I'm having a great time. Grant!
Hey!
What are you entertained by lately?
Entertained.
Are you not entertained?
Not by Gladiator 2.
Yeah, lest we dive back into that.
Don't get me started.
Yes. Let's see. I watched Throne of Blood recently, which is an Akira Kurosawa movie. Which
how was it?
It was very good.
Yeah.
Especially after coming from Seven Samurai, which I kind of put off for years and years and years, and I liked it, but it just wasn't my thing overall.
Yeah.
Alternatively, this very much was my thing.
Nice.
It's an adaptation of Macbeth, transplanted into medieval Japan.
Oh.
It's done really interestingly. It's a
Tony's ooh, tell me more.
The director he just mentioned is one of George Lucas's core inspirations.
inspiration.
Inspirations and quotes.
Wow, we are all full of shade today, aren't we? Carry
I haven't
on.
even gotten to mine yet.
Yeah, exactly.
No, there's entire books written on how the West has pilfered Kurosawa's work. The Magnificent Seven is literally just the Seven Samurai transplanted into the Wild West.
Interesting.
Literally.
But he does it too, right? He takes Macbeth and transplants
He does.
So what was it about that connecting piece for you that was
Well, I mean, first of all, you wouldn't even have to know that it's based on Macbeth, A, because he doesn't use, like, Shakespearean language.
right.
And B, it's very much like it's not a direct adaptation.
Gotcha.
He's taking points from Macbeth and, making his own thing.
Oh, cool.
But unlike Seven Samurai, which, despite its length, is always moving, like at a very brisk pace, I feel like this one had some really memorable scenes where it just kind of slows down and you can bathe in the ambiance.
Sure.
For example, there's one scene where, in this version, it's like a forest spirit that tells the two guys' futures.
Of course. That makes sense.
And it really just focuses on them slowly moving through the trees towards this spirit while it's singing this song of, touching on some of the themes of the movie and everything. But it's just very, very aesthetic, I guess.
Okay. All right.
It's and it's fun. It's got action, tragedy, obviously.
Right.
No, it was really good. So that's something I watched recently. I'm reading Ideology and Utopia by Carl Mannheim, who was an early, not really early, but he was big in like the early 19th century or 20th century sociology of knowledge.
Sure.
And he kind of set in stone a lot of the things that... So if you remember last year, I read a book called... what is it? The Social Construction of Reality.
Oh.
Peter Berg.
Yeah.
He's building off a lot of the things that Mannheim and some other people did back in the day.
Okay. Sure.
And really what he focuses on in this book is... the first section is like him going through the history of the conception of ideology, how different people saw it, and what he sees is it kind of evolving to the final stage, of course, which is the sociology of knowledge.
Okay.
Which he kind of takes us through his methodology and stuff.
Sure. Yeah. But it's interesting, right?
Yeah. No, it is. And like in the history, which I kind of just got through, he sees like the first inklings of like people, he sees it basically as like a flawed, like early ideology is basically like a flawed interpretation of reality. As it moves on and evolves, people realize that social situations and other factors influence people's conceptions and stuff. Eventually, and blah 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 blah.
It's a very modern take on, which I'm not, I shouldn't criticize what I haven't read, but it's interesting that we tend to do that, especially in the last 100 years. A lot of our deepest thinkers tend to like think that, and I'm like, duh.
Well, yeah.
You're prone to think that at this end of the planet's existence. Whereas if you were to ask deep thinkers from 12th century China, they might laugh in your face. Not because they don't understand as much as we do per se, but because they understand.
They have the same minds that we have.
Yeah, exactly, and they're coming at it from a different. Obviously, they know less because there's less that has happened.
Yeah,
but they may or may not have access to more directly of what's going on around them because of documentation. All those kinds of things. So, anyway, sorry, not to rain on your parade.
No, I was pretty much done. Right now, it's more of a collection of essays than a book, quote unquote.
Oh, cool.
Right now, I'm on the titular essay. I'm like halfway through.
Okay,
so
cool, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
That's what I'm doing.
Nice, Erin.
Hi.
Yes. Save us. No.
So over the weekend, I decided to buy a game. Because yes, I did. And so I've been playing it for the past few days. So I bought Avowed. And I want you all to know that whatever negative reviews you're seeing online, don't listen
Disregard
to them.
them.
Disregard them. Like, honestly.
Okay.
So here's the thing. So it's an Obsidian RPG. So let me wax poetic for a minute. It's an Obsidian RPG. What Obsidian does well is it's linear in the sense that yes, you're following a storyline, but there's openness to it because you're right now I'm in the first area. I haven't even left the first area yet because there's so much that I'm doing. You're in a little like a block, like a square on a map, right?
Oh, sure.
You're like in a square specifically.
Yeah.
And that's open, and you can explore that whole place.
Gotcha.
And there's side quests, there's things that you can do. Right now, I'm helping, I found this random dude who was, like, basically, like, injured. So your character is this character called a godlike. And godlikes are basically fancy terms for you've been chosen by a god.
It's basically like the Dragonborn, but of the Avowed universe. In a way.
You're basically like a demigod.
Yeah, okay.
You're basically like a Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
But also a Dragonborn, because you're basically chosen by a god. And that's like your godly, like, parent or your familiar or something like that.
Yeah.
But pro tip, you don't know who yours is. Because the gods have been kind of absent for the past, like, long while.
Wait, gods being absent? Really?
So is it
I
like...
can't relate to that at all.
Wait, I'm not even
Is this a nonfiction? Oh, okay.
No, I'm not even done.
Shade! Sorry. We are a mess today. Keep going.
So, you don't know who your godly parent is. There are 5 separate, like, backgrounds that you can choose from.
Oh.
There's, like, a noble, there's a war hero, there's a veteran, like a ranger. There is a kind of, like, it's called a court of gear, and it's basically like you're like the court mystic.
Oh, fun.
Or you can be an arcane scholar. I chose the scholar. And the really funny part is your background does play in how people talk to you sometimes. So you are the envoy to the emperor, and there's this thing called the Dream Scourge. And the Dream Scourge is kind of like this plague that is kind of... It infects people, they go insane, like, it's kind of like a thing. And it not only infects people, but it also infects the nature. And so you hear about over in this world called Paradis, in this area called Paradis. If you've played Pillars of Eternity, a lot of the stuff, it is set in the Pillars of Eternity world. So if you've played the Pillars of Eternity games, you have more of an understanding, but I've never played them. They're on my computer, by the way. I just haven't played them.
Sure, I almost completed the first one, but my save got corrupted.
No! But if you haven't played those Pillars of Eternity games, you can still understand stuff that's going on. Because there are little, like, there's, like, book entries that you can read. There's, like, things that kind of lead into it. It's fine.
Yeah.
But you are sent by the Emperor from your land, the Aediran land, to Paradis. And the thing is, people in Paradis hate the Aedirans because basically everybody is, like, flocking to Paradis as, like, this new world kind of thing. And the Aedirans are kind of like... So Paradis is kind of like Americans in 1776, and Aedirans are kind of like...
all of the
British
invaders and the conquerors. And
because they're kind of like the colonizers of the whole entire planet. Because they're basically coming in and they're like, well, you need to be civilized. These Paradisans aren't civilized. Things like this. Like, it's like a whole thing.
Fascinating.
But you are basically the envoy to the Emperor. You are going to Paradis. You are going to figure out what is happening with the Dream Scourge.
Yeah.
That's as far as I'll, like, spoil for that main storyline. Because that's as far as I've gotten, really. So, but, like, you talk to, like, one of the characters, like, when you first get on the dock, like, to Paradis. You're on Dawn Shore, I think it's called. It's whatever. But, like, you're there, and you're talking to your first companion that you can get, who's a blue man named Kai. He's a shark man.
Oh, is he the hot one you were telling me about?
Yeah, voiced by Garrus from Mass Effect. So there's that.
What?
Yeah. Voiced by Garrus from Mass Effect. And there may or may not be a little bit of romance in there that they told people that didn't exist, but it's there, apparently, if you finish his personal quest. So I'm hoping to get there. He's fantastic, and he has guns. That's his weapon, is guns. He dual wields them.
I'm
like
sorry.
Flintlock.
Yes!
Oh, see, I'm just seeing King Shark.
Yes.
King Shark is a shark, you know?
He's great. I love him. But, like, you see him for the first time, and I'm an arcane scholar, right? So I'm a scholarly person. I've been in the archives my entire life. I'm kind of like Violet from Fourth Wing. Sure, why not?
Yeah. You read magic, you don't perform it all that much.
Well, you do.
Well, sure, but yeah.
Like, he literally looks at you for the first time because you're going with him to this dangerous place to go find the ambassador, who has decided to F off into this place called the Staggle Root because he heard about the plague and wants to go see if it's real himself. And so he decides it's a great idea to go out there with somebody else. No, it's not a great idea.
No, of course not. It's a video game. Why would you do that?
So he looks at you and he's like, so is this your first time out in this, like, have you ever gotten your feet wet before? Like, how are you, like, is this your first time being in combat? And you have two options. You can either say, A, that this is your first time being in combat, or 2, you can be like, no, I've done it before. I like to, practice practical learning with the theories that I learned. And you can do that. Your Arcane Mystic character, your Arcane Scholar character, however, is very snarky to people who are very just, like, non-scientific with things. It's really funny. But right now I'm trying to do this thing where I found this random kid not really dying, but he was injured out in, like, the town merchant area. And he wanted to go find his brother and this team that he was with that were going to go find a relic. And I went to go find the brother and the relic. I found the brother. He's fine. He's going back home. But there's also another godlike there who's acting as an oracle, and he basically looks as if the Blue Man Group turned gold. He's like just like this completely gold person, and you ask him like, where are all the gods, and he's just like, except he's lived 600 years, so you think he would have answers? He has none.
Interesting.
So I hate him already, and I regret talking to him, but here we are. So I'm having a great time.
When does the game actually drop? Because I know you got the early.
Today, I think.
Is it today?
Hold on. I will forewarn you, there are spiders.
Yes, you did warn me, but you said there's a no spider mode. So.
No, there is no spider mode.
Oh, there's no, like, arachnophobia mode?
I will say, if you can find a pyromancer, you should get him and the shark guy together so you can recreate Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Just saying.
That's
Yeah, it releases today,
brilliant.
actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and so I've been
So the
playing it for a
date
while.
of this recording, which is February
18th.
So
It has been released today.
That means that
it
if
is,
you're listening to this, you can buy the game.
Yeah, I honestly, it's not that bad. I like it.
Yeah.
I think and this is just because I'm probably in the very beginning and I'm not used to the combat system yet.
Sure.
Combat system's kind of clunky.
Sure.
But, like, at the same time, I think that's because I've been playing Starfield and Outer Worlds.
Sure.
So those are gun-wielding games, and
Yeah.
this one's really not, and I'm running around with a spellbook and a wand.
Nice. You get a wand.
You aren't married to whatever you are. Like, you can choose if you're gonna go the wizard route, the ranger, fighter. You can mix and match.
Okay.
You can have a giant handed thing. You have 2 weapon slots.
Okay.
So you have your first weapon slot, and your first weapon slot is your first set, and then the second set you can have something else. So
Gotcha,
I have a wand and a spellbook in one section, and then in my other slot it's a sword and a shield, just in case I need it.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
But
that's great.
It's fine.
Okay.
I will say, like, I'm enjoying it.
How bad are the spiders? And how big are they?
They're not too big. I haven't found any big ones
How
yet.
bulbous are they?
Let me find a picture.
Yeah.
And I'll show you the picture.
Yeah, the big juicy spiders are creepy. I don't like them.
It's one of the reasons that, like, I can now play Jedi.
There is a giant spider, apparently.
No, I'm good. I can play Jedi Fallen Order, but that's because, again, the 2 giant ones, I know exactly where they are, and I know exactly how to avoid them. And the others, I know I can
you would
take.
hate it. I'm looking at pictures of it now. You would hate it.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Watch somebody else play through it.
Yeah, and maybe that'll give me more. I think that's a good idea. Because, again,
That's usually how I, like, if I don't think I'm gonna like something, or if I might be scared about it because, like, a spider. Or, for me, that's horror games. Like, I can't do. So I will watch a playthrough of it to see if I can actually stomach it, and then I try to play it, and then if I'm like, no, I
That's a
put
good
it away.
idea.
I forgot to say I tried Phasmophobia for the first time.
How do you like it?
It's fun. I mean, it's slow at first, but
I need friends to play that game with because I want to play it.
Okay, so this is how much this year of otaku thing I'm taking seriously. This is why I'm calling it this year. Do you know what games I've been playing lately? Anime and manga inspired fighting games. Guess which one currently takes the cake just because it's straightforward, it's simple, and the character designs are really great?
Is it the My Hero one?
It's the sequel to the My Hero one, which is set in the like Shie Haisakai arc.
I feel like you just started to play Soul Calibur.
I've played Soul Calibur, and I'm like, but I feel like I would be better about it now.
You have to play the older ones.
Yeah, probably.
You have to play like the one with Link in it.
You mean the ones before they added Yoda, like Clone Wars Yoda?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was one. I played the one. I think it's 4.
4 has Link in it.
Does it? Ooh,
Oh,
okay. Because there was one where they played where you could have Attack of the Clones Yoda.
Yeah.
Which was fun, except he sucked. So.
Because that's the one with the girl with the Tanbas.
Yes. Yeah. So
She was my main in that game.
Nice. I might actually play them better now, but, I do still get really frustrated when Mina Ashido is better at fighting than Hawks, or the only way that you can beat Todoroki. So Todoroki, Shoto, is the most OP. He literally is so OP that playing as him, you're like, I am a boss, because I just beat up All Might and Endeavor right after each other like it was nothing, right? That's how OP he is.
I know.
But then when you're Hawks, you're the number 2 hero at one point.
Yep.
And the only way that you can beat Todoroki, because he's so fast and his moves are so powerful, you have to spam the button where Hawks, like, at a distance can throw his feathers. You have to keep spamming that button because that's the only way Todoroki can't get close enough to you to throw ice in your face.
So, speaking of Todoroki, let's talk about today's episode.
Yes! Yes, exactly.
So, in the past, last 2 episodes, we've been talking about fanfiction.
Yes.
And we've talked about, what fanfiction is. We've talked about, different tropes and terms. And so, for those who haven't been listening to those 2 episodes, I gave Tony and Grant homework. I don't know how far along they got in their homework.
I am halfway through, but I plan on completing it. But halfway through gave me enough to talk about, which I'm really excited.
So I had them read a My Hero Academia fanfiction. It is Hero. Gosh darn it.
Hero Class Warfare. Or
Hero Class
Civil
Warfare.
There it is.
It's open on my phone, and I have to scroll all the way up.
I mean, it is arguably a mouthful, but that's
it is a mouthful. I'm 18 chapters in right now again, even though I've read it before. So
right, yeah.
So basically, the premise of Hero Class Civil Warfare is they are going to do a giant simulation where half of the hero class, and this is both class 1A and 1B,
yes,
are going to be, half of them are going to be heroes, and half of them are going to be villains. And Bakugo has been chosen to be the leader of the heroes, and Midoriya has been chosen to be the leader of the villains.
Which, if you are at any point familiar with My Hero Academia at all, you just spat your teeth out of your mouth because you were laughing that hard. Because it is exactly what you think it would be. Except it's also not at all what you think it would be. Which I really,
So the thing about this fan fiction specifically, and why I chose it, is it kind of turns Midoriya's personality on its head.
I feel like it very cleverly uses what we know Midoriya to be, and I'll give an example. So there's a I can't remember which chapter it is. It may be chapter 7 or 8 or something, where, and I can't remember which character is thinking this about Midoriya. Oh yeah, I think it's Yaoyorozu.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, when they go get her.
When they go do they go to May? Is this when they go to May?
Yes. Hatsume. Thank you. Yes, when they go to May Hatsume. So when they go to talk to May Hatsume about, what Midoriya basically wants Yaoyorozu to be familiar with so she can create things, because that's her quirk. Again, speaking for the locals. So
she can create anything she wants as long as she knows the chemical composition of it.
Yes, and also as long as she has enough lipids stored in her body, so she has to eat a lot. Sorry, that's anyway. So in that scene, Yaoyorozu is thinking about oh wow, this is a different Midoriya than I've known him to be, because he's usually sort of a shy geek, and she even mentions that to him. She's like, what's going on with you? You're different than you've ever been before. And he's like, oh. And because he's Midoriya, this is his response. Oh, well, I Googled a lot of, like, villain, like, blogs and things, and then I did a lot of research, and I watched a lot of movies, and I'm just basically practicing how to be a villain, and he goes on for, like, a solid paragraph about basically how he researched how to be a villain. Yeah. And if you know
Midoriya, that makes
you're
sense.
like, of course he is. But at the same time, all of the stuff that's happening and how it's happening, like when the bank blows up and Mineta is like, excuse me? What? It's
have you gotten that far?
Yeah.
All right, so when the bank blows up,
I love
and
that.
I need to tell you my favorite part about the whole entire thing is that their phones don't work.
Yes.
Inside of the simulation area, and all you see is Midoriya is calling Bakugo, and he's like, "What the heck?" And he answers it, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm just here for a distraction."
Yeah.
Turn around, and he turns around, and boom. So dope.
So great. I love it. I think my favorite thing about all of it so far, which is why I'm like, I want to finish it. I think my favorite thing about it is because it is written by someone who is not only just familiar with my hero, that's obvious, but it's also obvious that this person is familiar with Japan. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't tell you whether or not they've been to Japan or whatever, but they're familiar enough with Japan either through their interest in manga and anime or just through doing enough, like, whatever their pet research is. They're familiar enough with Japan that they know things like the name reversals, you know, because if you watch it in English...
Well, if you watch a lot of anime, you can automatically use that.
Yeah.
That's, like, kind of a big thing in fanfiction in general.
Oh, okay.
Like, especially if you're doing something anime, you want to respect that culture, and
Absolutely.
It's a lot easier if you can just type it in as, like, it was supposed to be, like, in the manga.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see that happen, because there's obviously been, especially with COVID, more of an Americanized, like, fandom space. I want to say an Americanized fandom space. I want to say a localized fandom space. Like, we have a lot more people who have never been in fandom space before coming in, and so now the fandom space is changing.
So, like, slight tangent, just out of curiosity. Yeah. Do you feel, because, like... I can't ask these questions of most people because most people haven't been obsessed with this since they were kids. Like,
absolutely, go ahead.
Have not. So, like, do you feel like people like me who I'm new to this, but I know how to respect fandoms because I've been in other fandoms, do you feel like there's more people like me coming in and being locals and changing? Or do you feel like it's more people who are just mouthy and love to talk, but they're not respecting the space that they're entering into?
It's a mix.
Is it a mix? Okay, sure.
So I'll kind of go on my little tangent here about it. It's more so the fact that, so in fandom spaces, and you specifically see this in TikTok and spaces that have more of a comment feature on things.
Sure. Yeah. So social media.
So hi, I'm coming from the Tumblr fandom space. In the Tumblr fandom space, in like the 2010 to like 2015 range, before Tumblr kind of died and everyone mass exodus to Twitter, and now Twitter's dying and so everyone's trying to mass exodus back. It's like a whole entire thing. Yeah. Those fandom spaces like had a lot of debate, and some of it was particularly nasty, but there were fandom debates in those spaces, and that's true for Tumblr spaces. That was true for spaces before the Tumblr space. Like, absolutely. This is like, it's always been there. Yeah. But there's always been an amount of respect of like talking and going like, if I don't like it, I move onwards. We're seeing an influx of people who come in and it's not that they don't respect the fandom spaces. I'm pretty sure, like, they might. Who knows? I don't know what's in their head because I'm not them. Right. But they don't know when to go, oh, I don't like it, let me move on. They need to tell everybody their opinion, and that's where the problem comes in the fandom spaces currently, people don't know when to turn around and go, oh, this is not my spot to talk about. And you see this in a lot of other spaces too, when people step in when they're not supposed to.
Last Airbender universe went through that when Airbender got onto Netflix. Yeah. Because suddenly you had all these people who either didn't know about it or didn't have it available, and so they could just watch it for free. And suddenly overnight, Twitter was full of all of these people doing these hot takes of like, we don't understand why Zuko and Katara aren't together, and literally other people having to go, do you not understand that the Fire Nation murdered her family? Why would she want to be with that guy? He's lucky that he's even alive.
No,
like,
so like there's that, and it's just like, okay, I get it. Like you have your hot take, but then like when somebody else has their own hot take, and then you don't agree with them, instead of like responding like respectfully with like, bro, in the show, like, literally Katara's family got murdered by Zuko's family.
Yeah.
There's a whole entire reason
but also,
why they probably should not be together, because there's a lot of trauma that goes along with it.
But also, if you want Zutara, go over here, because on AO3, there's Zutara.
We do have these fanfiction spaces.
Right.
It's the same way when you have, like, your Hermione hands.
Yeah.
Your spaces.
Yeah, exactly.
Should Draco and Hermione be together? No, absolutely not.
Draco doesn't deserve to be with anybody. That's not true. I actually feel a lot of...
But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Should they be together in canon? Absolutely not.
Because he should be with Harry.
Well, yes.
Sorry.
That's one thing.
I'm a Drarry. I love Drarry. I think that's...
Yeah, I'll have so many for you there.
What?
Not Heiko.
What's Heiko?
Harry Draco.
No!
Oh!
No! Ew! Disgusting!
That's
but
funny.
like,
I like this.
when you're sitting there and do they belong together? No. But there's a whole entire space over here if you really, really like it. Right. But it's like people turn around and they don't have like this like empathy when they talk to people, and it's kind of very apathetic, and that has been a big thing that's been going on, not only just in regular fandom spaces, but just in general on social media. We've gotten to that point where like everyone is just super apathetic about everything, and it's kind of becoming a problem that way.
So with
and you also have, because there's a second half to it, you have also have all the young kids come in. And
they're getting their training wheels.
They're getting their training wheels, and there's like all of us older heads who at one point were slapped down by, those who are older than us going, don't do that, that's wrong.
And we deserved it.
We deserved it, and now we're having to do that to this younger generation still, and so because they don't get it yet, they're trying to push back on it, and so we're having another wave of that, and it's fine, because that's just how fandom spaces grow, is you have those young kids come in, they learn how fandom etiquette works, and then they turn around, and then
they become the old heads.
And then they become the old heads. It's like
that's fair.
It's a circle of life, but fandom edition.
So, with that, dovetailing into the subject of the hero class Civil Warfare.
Back into this.
So, do you think, because I noticed this when I was reading it like physically, and then we're going to get to the YouTube audio production in a moment, but because I find that to be fascinating, but we're going to talk about that in a moment.
It's a whole new thing, by the way.
Oh, okay. So
that is a new,
pausing on that, bookmarking that.
That is a new aspect of fanfiction.
So, Hero Class Civil Warfare, I noticed, like, at the bottom of the page, there's, like, they show you comments, and then they show you the number of comments, and, of course, you would have to click and see if you wanted to read them, which I did not do. But I was curious because, like, each chapter had upwards of, like, almost 300 comments. And I know you were telling me that, like, it's a much-loved fanfiction, obviously.
Yep.
But my question is, like, do you feel as though the comments in that reflect, like, positive, negatives? I don't want it to sound...
So the thing about...
What's the general...
So the thing about fanfiction that you need to know, that there's a slight difference in terms of how you critique and talk about fanfiction.
Okay, yes.
So this is something that I didn't touch on the last two episodes, but it's, it's good to touch on it now. When it comes to fanfiction, you do not critique it like a regular book. Right. So you do not go on to an AO3 chapter, and you do not leave a whole entire Goodreads-esque
Screed
critique of the whole entire chapter and how much you hate it. You don't do that.
What are you talking about? Goodreads is like the New York Times. I mean, they're like amazing on that. No,
but you don't do that like on AO3. You don't do that on Tumblr. You don't do that on fanfic.net. You don't do that on LiveJournal.
Will they delete your comments if you do that, or are you allowed to?
Either that or drag you.
I'm getting there. The general consensus, and this is the same thing that I will talk until the day that I die.
Yeah.
Is if you like the fan fiction, on AO3 there's a little kudos button. You do not have to have an account, and you could just leave a kudos.
Oh,
so
cool.
if you just like it, you could just kudos the chapter.
Yeah.
And you can do that for every single chapter. Great. You can only do that once. You can't take away your kudos. That just means you like it.
Okay.
When you leave comments, you're basically leaving words of encouragement for either A, the author, or B, you're talking about something that you liked about the chapter.
Okay.
So, like, for somebody else goes, like, it's strategy time. I love the amount of effort and time that Deck was putting into his plans.
Yeah.
Not only does it show his character, but it's also a main factor in the villain's, I'm hoping, victory. Things like this.
Yeah.
And wow, Todoroki's finally using his brain. I'm glad he's got that down. And so, like, you see things like that, and it's just people talking about stuff that's happening in the fan fiction.
Yeah.
There's nothing negative.
Okay.
In the fandom space, if you leave a negative comment or a flame, or it's called flames.
Sure,
Flame
right.
somebody.
Yeah.
If you leave a flame, if you leave a critique, something like that about somebody on, like, either the AO3 on the chapter or in general, typically either what happens is A, it gets removed because the person's like, no, I don't care.
Yeah.
B, they get responded to as, like, roasted in the comments of, like, bro, if you are reading this and you don't like it,
They just don't respond. Yeah, right. Yeah.
no, so my favorite part is, like, if you want to leave, what you can do is there's this little tab button right here, and you can just swipe it away, and you've gotten rid of the whole entire thing, and you never have to read it ever again.
Yeah.
That is just kind of how, like, responding to flames works.
Fascinating.
Fan fiction really operates under the don't like, don't read.
You know?
Don't like it, don't read it. You read that first chapter,
Yeah.
and you hate it,
Yeah.
hit the back button and go find something else. Like, that is just literally how fanfiction reviews work.
Interesting.
Grant.
I was just going to ask, like, do you see that changing as this new influx of people
No.
come in? You
No.
see them
This is where the old heads will turn around and they will slap you on the face and go, absolutely not.
Yeah,
shut
we
up.
don't do this here. Yeah.
Like, that's not how this works.
Wow, I feel like they need to be on Goodreads. And every comment is like, stop it. You stop doing that.
And so the thing is like, on TikTok Spaces, you're seeing this now where the old heads are finally responding back to the younger people who are like, and this is where you have your anti-shipper, pro-shipper discourse. It's like a whole entire thing. It's like, that'd be a whole other episode.
That'd be a whole other episode. Yeah. No,
where they go, listen, if you don't like the ship that's on the video,
right.
Scroll away. Why are you spending 5 extra minutes of your life to type a whole entire flame about somebody on this, like, thing when you could spend 2 extra seconds and just go, boop.
What I do find... Sorry.
You're good.
I guess what I was trying to ask is there a delineation between constructive criticism and flaming in... Or
Yeah.
do they just...
No, there's a difference.
Okay.
So if it's like a spelling mistake or something, you could turn around and you could go. And honestly, most fanfiction authors would prefer it if you DM them rather than commented on their, like, thing.
Sure.
But, like, you respond to them and you just go, hey, I was reading your thing and I noticed you don't have a beta reader, but this is misspelled.
Oh,
And
cool. Okay.
you just, like, say something nice like that. You don't have to change it. I just wanted you to know that it was misspelled and I didn't know if you realized it.
So
you just kind of
yeah.
have to be very respectful about the person who's writing it, because a lot of times, a lot of the people who are writing these things, English is not their first language. They are usually either between the ages of 13 to 40 something, and so you'd have no idea what age this person is. So if it's somebody who's in their early teens and they don't know how to misspell something, that's understandable. So there's things like that.
Story time with Tony.
Oh no.
I never tell this story because it hurt a lot when I was 12. So, way back in the day, because, I'm turning 37 this year, we're not talking about it. But when I was 12, a friend of mine was writing Star Wars fan fiction, and every once in a while, if she was proud of something, she would post it on fanfiction.net. She didn't have long projects. She had long projects on her computer, but she was uncomfortable sharing them.
So she was posting more like one-shots and travels.
Yeah, because another friend of hers was doing that too, so they had a shared Star Wars fan fiction universe, and they would, talk to each other about the stories before they posted them, that kind of thing. So anyway, I decided, I was like, oh cool, I want to try that and just write my own thing on fanfiction.net. Now, mind you, I'm 12, I don't know any of the rules, I don't know any of the, and I only have this is back in the dial-up era. So if you're on the internet, you don't stay on the internet for very long, especially if it's in the evening, because mom might need to get a call from Pastor so-and-so, and something might be happening at the church, and she needs to go get,
No,
so to
I
make
got
a
you.
long story short, I was, starting to post things on fanfiction.net. I was very proud of myself for posting anything.
Somebody flame you.
Someone flamed me, like, bad. Like, they were so mean. Like, they were really mean. And I did not respond well. And then
Nobody
someone
does.
came to my defense.
Yep.
And they were like, you should not have pushed this person to the point where they had to respond this way because your original comment is really nasty.
Yep.
And it was like, it wasn't even like
That's
when
kind of the general, like, how it should be.
Yeah,
in
I
fandom
feel like it was
spaces.
more that because I was 12, I took whatever the comment was much harsher. Now, these days, at 36... I would just delete the comment and keep going because I'm like, oh, please. But at 12, when you're new, you don't know.
That's kind of why that's part of the fandom etiquette is like, you're nice to people, you're very respectful, you don't flame them in their comments. Like, it's just, that's just not something you do.
Yeah.
I feel like I should. So this is a really good fan fiction as we continue going back into this.
Yes.
So this is a great fan fiction. I feel like I should make you guys do another episode and have you read the antithesis of fan fiction.
Oh.
It's a bad one. It's bad fan fiction.
Which one is? If you say My Immortal, I swear, is it My Immortal? I knew it was gonna be My Immortal. I knew it.
I've read it before, but I'll read it again.
So interesting. Like with My Immortal, like, do you feel like how was the commenting with that? Because like I've never heard a single person say like, oh, it's my favorite thing, unless to roast
so the
it.
thing,
Like
at the time, we knew it was really bad. Yes, it got flamed, but that's just because of how badly it was written. And the funny part is, there's like a whole entire thing where like, if you flame me, you're a prep, and it's like a whole entire thing. It's like a way part of the whole entire fandom lore.
that's funny.
When you read the whole thing, you understand why it's at the time, it was kind of like how Rebecca Black came out with the song Friday, and everybody was just losing their mind.
And Rebecca Black even got in on the joke, which I so
she's
appreciate.
in on the joke, and she has a secondary song called
Saturday. It was so good.
But that was years later when she was older.
Right, when she could handle
So-
it. Yeah, exactly.
With My Immortal, there's like this thing of like, you read it and you're like, oh my god, this is horrible. And at the time it came out, everybody was ragging on it because it was the thing that everyone was like, oh my god, did you see this?
Yeah.
But now we consider it a big part of fandom lore because now you see like a random girl in like any book, any YA book, any fantasy book, right? And she has dark hair and she can do whatever she wants. And everyone comes out with goes, my name is Ebony Darkness to Venture Raven Way. Like in response. Because that's what she sounds like.
I've seen those Goodreads comments.
Yeah, no,
I've seen
and
those.
so it became like a giant like staple in the fandom space.
So funny.
And it's just one of those things. And this fan fiction, along with a couple others that I might send specifically to Tony because there's one called
You two. I don't understand you two sometimes, and it cracks me up. But
there's
okay,
like one
sure.
called like For Want with a Nail. And it basically turns around and it takes Midoriya as if he has to give away like all for one. Or one for all.
Oh.
Those kind of things.
Sure.
There's a couple others where like Midoriya doesn't have one for all. But he has a quirk. He just doesn't know what that quirk is until he dies.
Oh?
So we take All Might leaving Izuku on the roof.
Oh.
And we take that just a little bit step further. Midoriya is not in the greatest headspace at moments. And he, all of a sudden now comes back to life.
And that's his... Shut
That's his
up.
quirk.
Okay, you have to send me that one.
So it's like a witch. If you drown her, if she drowned, she wasn't a witch.
You're right.
She's still dead. But...
The thing is,
It's great.
specifically in that other fan fiction, the thing is, Izuku, once he figures out, oh my god, this is my quirk, he's been, for the past, like, week and a half, after he comes back the first time, goes, oh, is this just a one-time thing? And keeps trying, not because he's in a bad way, but because now
he's a nerd and he has to find out
now he has
every
to
corner
mutter
of his
to
quirk.
Yes. He's a nerd. He has the notebook dedicated.
Love
so
that
he's
child.
writing about
He's
it.
ridiculous.
And so by the time he figures it out, it's like a week later, and he finally turns around and he looks at like Bakugo or his mom or just somebody else and goes, look, I have a quirk. And nobody believes him. And then there's another version of that exact same like trope, because that is a very popular Midoriya trope.
Oh, okay, sure.
It really gets leaned on, especially in the beginning of the whole entire show.
Yeah.
There's another version of it where he turns around and in front of his mom just like drops dead by accident. And so she freaks out and he comes back to life and she's like, oh my god, you did have a quirk. And he's like, see, I told you.
That's great.
And so he's trying to figure that out, and so he goes into the class, the exams, like the entrance
Oh,
exams.
sure, yeah.
With that quirk, and he goes to save Uraraka. And does exactly what you think he does.
Oh my god, that is perfect.
He's just insane. And usually this leads to Shinso being like the secondary main character because they're besties at this point.
I love that.
And so they're just sitting there just staring at each other going like, what are we supposed to do with our quirks?
That's great.
There's other quirks. There's another one where Izuku is followed around by an eldritch being.
Of course.
And
the Shinigami style, Death Note style, maybe.
No,
No,
just like this like ghost that follows them around.
Oh, okay, sure.
And it doesn't talk, doesn't do anything, it just follows them around. And so whenever Izuku has a problem, the Eldritch Being just eats them. Like, that's like a whole entire
That's
thing.
kind of fun.
There's another one where Izuku can just see ghosts, like the Sixth Sense. And so his whole entire thing is he's trying to figure stuff out. There's another one where he kind of is able to like analyze things, and so his quirk ends up being like analysis, and so he becomes an underground hack, like not really a hacker, but like he does stuff underground.
Basically, kind of like a Sir Night kind of thing.
So he hacks into stuff, figures like stuff out about like the villain that the police are trying to fight, or whoever it is, and whoever the policeman's name is.
Oh,
The lie detector guy.
Yes.
But he'll turn around and he'll just like dead drop stuff onto his computer without him even realizing it. And it leads to like the whole entirety of the heroes, both the underground and the above ground heroes, trying to figure out who Midoriya is. And meanwhile, Midoriya's just sitting in class 1C, just like
hacking?
No, he's not even hacking. He's just like, I just really need to do well on my English homework today.
That's very Midoriya.
And so there's a lot of those out there, and they're so interesting.
Yeah.
And it's really fun, especially like with things like this where you see characters and you're able to take them and throw them into something else and see what sticks and what might work with their characters.
Well, and I think My Hero in particular is very, very good for that, because that's basically what Horikoshi does to MC and or to Marvel and DC. He literally looks at his Marvel and DC universes that he spent his childhood growing up on and goes, this should be a shonen. And then just makes it, and you're like, oh. Because honestly, that's why I think it's so brilliant, and people don't understand that. It's like, you think that superheroes were done, right? You think we've seen everything that we can see. But in the long history of both shonen and American superhero comics, guess what never got fused? Those two things. And Horikoshi is smart enough to go, wait a minute. Why has no one done Superman as a shonen? Done. And he creates his own thing.
It's literally All Might. All Might is literally Superman.
It's brilliant. And I think that's the fun part.
And Aizawa's Batman.
He is. No wonder I like him so much.
Two things.
Yes.
Two things.
Yes.
I think my favorite part of this fan fiction was when the teachers are betting on the students.
Yes.
I just love the irreverence of it. And It seems like something teachers would do.
Oh, if only you knew.
Especially because they can watch the whole time.
Especially Aizawa, because he is kind of...
But the thing is, Aizawa's smart, and he understands Izuku on a completely separate level than everybody else does.
Because he knows his students.
And he knows his students, and so he's just like, yeah, I know Midoriya is winning, and everyone doesn't believe him because they think Midoriya is way too, like, goody two-shoes for it. Meanwhile, Midoriya is over in the corner, like, rubbing his hands together and cackling, and Netsu's just like, I love this for you, this is great.
That's Principal Netsu all
All
day
right,
long.
so...
What was your second?
My second part.
Yes.
I know we there's no way to know the age of the writer of this. Mm-hmm. Judging by the way that they use profanity, I would guess on the lower end of the spectrum. Only because it seems like...
You'd be surprised.
I mean, I haven't seen this show, but it seems like they're just excited they can say some naughty words.
No, you'd be surprised.
So I think after the first chapter in which I encountered an expletive, even though it was Bakugo that was saying it, it felt awkward for Bakugo. Not the word, but the particular use at that point I was like, oh, that's not quite Bakugo. But the more scenes you get with Bakugo and the way in which he swears, because he has a very specific way of using language, that the writer got more and more an understanding of that as they kept going. And there is, even though the fanfiction uses what we would consider coarser language than the anime, I think there's an awareness by the writer. Now, they still could be 16, but there's an awareness of the writer of the fact that the anime is mass-produced for the public, for teenagers. Therefore, you can't just have a character who probably would swear start dropping F-bombs. Like, you know what I mean? Whereas in your own controlled environment, which is what this fanfiction is, how would a teenager who is like Bakugo, how would that character swear? And I think that's what that's what we're seeing in this.
Okay, and if I was more familiar with the characters, I'm sure.
If you were way more familiar with the characters, like Bakugo specifically, like his whole entire thing is he yells at people, like he said.
Okay, that makes sense.
Like he's sort of like
he's always angry.
We call him a little tiny Pomeranian because he basically is like one of those little tiny yapper dogs.
My favorite line is the very first line where he's talking. He literally has just met his classmates, and someone says something. I think it's the scene where Aizawa is literally telling them, like, okay, all of you failed basically the throwing exam. You thought you did better than you did, so we're going to practice using our quirks, throwing this little ball in the air or whatever. Yeah. And so someone makes a comment. I think it's Kaminari.
It might be.
Kaminari, wait, no, it's Kirishima. I get them confused. It's Kirishima. So Kirishima says something kind of offhanded about Bakugo's ability, which is basically, so Bakugo's power, for the locals, is that he can turn... He sweats nitroglycerin, and that it causes explosions. That's his quirk. So everyone knows this, right? But they don't know his disposition yet. So, you know, Kirishima's just like some...
he throws it in the air and just starts yelling.
But his very first line to the class is, you shut your blank mouth, you blank, I'll kill you. And you're just like, and he shouts it at the top of his lungs. And if you don't know Bakugo, it's shocking. But if you do know him, you cannot help
normal.
It's so him. It's because
that's all he does. He just yells all his lines. I want to focus.
No, this explains.
You guys listen to the podfic. And I want to tell you guys that podfics are new in terms of like the fandom space.
Like as in like the last couple of years?
Like 5, 10 years.
So do you think that the pandemic had something to do with that? Like a push for that? But
I think it's more of an accessibility thing.
Oh,
it became more of an accessibility thing. Like as we are, the fandom space always shifts more liberal than everything
I really
else.
that's true. I really liked the effort of the narrator, if that makes sense, because you can tell, like I can hear, because I love voice acting and all that kind of stuff, which we all do. I mean, whatever. Anyway, my point is, I can hear the points at which she's pausing as she's reading, and I'm assuming gender here, I'm sorry. But I still enjoy like the effort that's put into the different characters, the different cadences of the voices. Like this person is not a competent voice actor, but they're familiar enough.
No, but
like,
it's somebody who's like basically how it works is like anybody could really make it a podfic.
Yeah, because the fanfiction's all free and available.
Yep.
And there's no like copyright stuff.
There's no real copyright thing, but the thing that's like big, once again, because it's a fandom space, you get the permission from the author who's writing the fanfic to make a podfic.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Make it into a podfic, because then they can link it in their original fanfiction, like, oh, this is a podfic available here. Those kind of things.
How did you find it?
I just looked up Hero Class Civil Warfare on YouTube, and the playlist of the episodes came up.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Oh, cool. Because I mean, like I said, I really like the effort. And it helps me to be able to, like, because you know how, I mean, I don't know how you are, but when I'm at home, sometimes, like, physically reading something with all those words, I'm just like, I've read 12 emails today. I really don't feel like reading, like, words.
I'm really
so
good
it's nice
with
to have,
words
like,
for me,
listening.
and that's just because usually, like, I send my Sims to work, and while they're at work, I read something.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's just really easy for me. Like, right now, I'm reading a whole entire Twilight fanfiction that's crossed over with Vampire Diaries by accident, where Bella got pregnant by Edward and then he left, and so turns out, oops, she's actually related to the Salvatores and she's actually a witch. So there's that.
Interesting.
So it's like a whole entire thing. Do I like it? No. But is it good brain rot? Yes. So, you know.
Nice.
Like I said, I think I need another episode where I make you guys read my immortal.
What if we do another episode where we talk